Howdy folks, it's Sonelias. I've been getting a question recently on how to actually record gameplay videos, so I thought I'd put a little bit of a how-to video together. So this is a how-to video on how to record gameplay videos. So first, there's a few things you need to look at which you need to get beforehand. So first thing, of course, is you need to get the game in question. So whatever game you want to capture on screen, make sure you got it. Secondly, you need a microphone for the voiceovers or narrative, whatever you want to provide with it. Then of course you need the screen capture software, and that's what this particular video will focus in on. Then of course you need the sufficient storage on your computer to be able to store whatever you've captured. And ultimately, of course, you need some video editing software for post-recording processing. And with that I mean, maybe you want to adjust the volume of your voice, maybe you want to adjust the volume of the game, audio effects and so forth, or maybe you want to overlay two or connect two different bits of video. So video editing software is quite key. Do bear in mind it's optional. You could have just recorded and just upload it straight away, but you make it significantly better by using some video editing software. And finally, of course, you need sufficient upload bandwidth to be able to upload to YouTube or whatever other channel you're using. Now there's various different pieces of software that we could actually use. So Bandicam is one of them, which is the one I'm using myself, and I'll actually show you what it looks like in a minute. Camtasia, Debut video capture software from NCH Software, Shadowplay, which is from NVIDIA, DxTory or Fraps. All of those could potentially be used. Some of them are free, some of you got to pay for, but there's loads more other available. Just bear in mind, I personally prefer Bandicam just because it gives me lots of flexibility, and that's exactly what I'll be focusing in on during this particular video here. Right. So in front of us we see now Bandicam. Bandicam basically is the tool that I prefer to use for the purpose of recording. There's various different methods of recording. We can either do a game recording mode, which you can actually capture a game footage with, or we can actually do a part of the screen or full screen, whatever we prefer. And of course there's an HDMI capture facility for the purpose of using a webcam or another HDMI capture device. Now, first screen we see here is the general settings, where we can actually choose our output folder. I've chosen a folder on the E drive, as you can see. There's some advanced settings that we can actually go through here as well. So choosing, for example, language, but more importantly also determining whether we want to start up the application on Windows Startup and so forth. Lots of extra little bits. Output folder. Now it also allows me to create the output subfolders when writing a file. So whatever application I'm doing the recording in, whether that's World Tanks or whether it's Stellaris or Civilization, it'll create a folder specific to that particular application and put the files in there. Then also, I always prefer to use the target name plus the date and time, so at least I can keep track of exactly what program I recorded and at what date and time that recording was created. Right, that's really the main page here. If we go over to the next page, the video page, on there you'll see that there is a keyboard shortcut for stopping and starting the recording. So I use on this page, typically I prefer to use F12. So I'm just going to put that keyboard shortcut in there. F12, as you can see, has now been put into there. You can also pause the recording by clicking on Shift F12 in this particular example. Some other settings in here, or you can even put a webcam overlay if you prefer to do that. The option is available in here. Then underneath there we can actually across the format that we've chosen. So we've chosen MP4 as being the video recording format. There's some actually the details of the bitrate and so forth all listed on there. So if I click on my settings here, in the settings here I should be able to see exactly what format I've chosen. So you can choose between either an AVI file or an MP4 file. Whether you want to do full size or partial size, and also the frame rate. So I've chosen 30 frames per second. That's typically sufficient for what I'm doing. If you want to do it 60, feel free to, nothing stopping you. Underneath there also the actual bitrate of the recording. So if you look at the actual YouTube website, there's actually a recommendation around the bitrate provided. That is pure video. If you also want to include your audio, there's a slightly different bitrate required. So just bear that in mind. Now also quite important here is the codec. At the moment, as you will see, I'm using the H.264 codec. There's various different ones available. Either I can use the one from NVIDIA or the one through the CPU or pure MPEG-4. Now H.264 is properly supported by YouTube. Allows me to do a bit of compression on there. And of course I can also use my CPU for the purpose of optimizing recording. Quite importantly when you're setting this up is choosing the constant bitrate. At least that is when you want to be able to do some video editing afterwards. So choosing a constant bitrate in this window, not only in this window here, but also in the other window here, choosing a constant bitrate. So next to the FPS, frames per second, choose preferred constant frame rate, as well as in this window here, constant bitrate having been chosen. Underneath there you see what is called the keyframe interval. Now in MPEG-4, what the system actually does, it takes a snapshot of what's on your screen entirely, so it's like a picture, and then for the next X number of frames it just records what has changed in relation to that first snapshot that you took. That basically allows the system to quite optimally compress that data, or reduce the amount of data you require to be recorded, and then after an X number of frames it takes another picture and then basically then records the changes again. So setting that keyframe interval here determines how many frames in between those snapshots actually are occurring. Alright, now slightly further down, of course, the bitrate that we talked about, and of course the codec for audio. There's only one format available in this particular version. Bitrate, I've chosen the highest bitrate here, and of course whether you're dealing with stereo or mono audio, plus of course the frequency that you want to record in. Alright, once we've done that, click on OK. It takes us back to this page here. Clicking on images here, this also allows me to choose how I want to record my images. So if I want to take a snapshot or screenshot of what's going on, in this case I just got a keyboard shortcut F11, press that button, and it basically takes a snapshot of what's on the screen for me. And of course PNG as being the output format that I prefer to use. Alright, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what's available in here. As you can see, I've got some files already in that recording folder. Let's go back to that presentation that I basically had created here. So there's other capture facilities or capture tools available if you wanted to explore them. I'll provide some links down below. But in the meantime, thanks again for watching this, and hopefully this has been beneficial to you for the purpose of creating your own video recordings. In the meantime, have a good day. Bye bye.